This is TWiT.
So, Alex, let's talk about this cinematic mode, this pull focus mode. Here's Apple's demonstration of it on their webpage. One problem, of course, is that the camera is deciding what to focus on. Now, there is a manual touch mode you can use. In fact, there's a tracking mode, which is kind of cool. You can touch somebody and say, track this face. Right. But I have to say, I don't know. Waits to be seen how that's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for someone an average person throwing together a movie for film school or for high school,
it's going to pull focus,
whatever,
and you don't even know it.
It could work really well, and you just be like, "Wow, this looks great." I think that there's also probably going to be APIs that we can use that people can have more control. Like what's happening here is we're giving the developers a whole bunch of new tools that they're going to be able to go in there and say, okay, well, and again,
but that comes
a company
back to
like Filmic Pro will take that and run with it.
That comes back to my point with control. Like I go to a pro camera because then I choose.
Yes.
But an amateur may be racking focus and not even knowing it, right? It's just, wow, how'd you get a rack focus in there? What's that?
Right.
And so that's kind of cool. They said something else, and I want to ask Alex about this one. The only smartphone that lets you edit the depth effect after you shoot.
Yeah, so when I saw it, I was like, I wonder if they're going to give us that information. And then I saw it, I was like, oh, I have to buy this phone. So it was like it was done. So what they're doing is they're saving all that depth information in video format as well, so that you have all that data, so that you can go back later. And I haven't seen any. I mean, I have seen other technologies that do that, but never in a phone.
Is the phone recording multiple depth? Kind of like the old ray tracing or what?
It's creating so it can calculate out the depth of everything in front of it.
But is it blurring? So it's software blur then, not?
Yeah, it's a software blur, but it's pretty good. And the place that you're seeing it have trouble, even if you look at the demos that they have there, are the blonde hair, the white hair, the areas where there's not as much contrast. You'll see little blurry wisps that are still going on. So that's still happening just a little bit.
That's hard to do.
We've seen that, and that's really, really hard. I mean, that is and so that's why, in many cases, you would not use this in a professional environment because it's not giving you that true depth of field. That said, in the right environments, shot well, without, for the right things, it could work really well, and it could be really, really fun to shoot a lot of things. And again, it makes it so much more fun just to go out and take pictures, little movies with your kids, and again, TikToks and YouTubes and all kinds of other stuff that'll be a lot of fun.
Again, that's what I kept getting. I wouldn't say that my eyes glaze over when they talk during all these demos where year after year they show, again, professional videographers who probably have they keep like a 48K red camera in the trunk of their car for giggles, saying, "Oh no, of course I'm going to use this $1,000 smartphone for these big cinematic projects I have." And maybe they do, maybe they don't. I'm not very aware of that. But the fact that again, somebody who is just shooting a birthday video, that suddenly the people watching it either on their phones via FaceTime or like 10 years later, they don't know why it looks so good. They don't know why it has more of a filmic effect and the person who shot it has no idea why it looks that good. They just know that, well, all I did was I pushed this big red button and I just tried to keep my thumb over that big camera bump, and that's all I did. And it absolutely worked.
So Alex, when it's doing it live, is it still just doing blur, or is it actually now doing changing the focus in camera?
No, it's blurring. I mean, it's
still
doing
soft.
Blur.
It's still a blur.
It's
just like portrait mode.
Just like it's portrait mode, but video. That's what I think is happening.
Portrait mode, 30 frames a second, which is pretty impressive.
Amazing. I mean, it's also
it's
just blurring. It's just blurring, like in real time, in 30 frames a second. It's adding that. And the crazy one is that it's probably it's cropping in a little bit because it talks about when someone's out of frame, it knows they're coming into frame, and it'll throw the focus to them. And I was like, what?
And so this is also an example of machine learning, because they're saying they're using the neural engine to do this. So it's been trained on a bunch of actual data, how to do this, what to look at. You can do it manually later, or in real time with touching this the screen. They also say that you needed the computational power of an A15 to do this. So that's why this is appearing now.
Yeah. They also made a point of again, underscoring how much power they get out of their hardware by making every single decision, hardware, software, operating system. When they're talking about how they're able to do ProRes recording like 4K, 30 frames per second with whatever, with HDR or whatever, they weren't just talking about, hey, look at our good camera system, hey, look at our sensor. They're also saying we have a file system that is designed to store stuff really fast. We have really, really fast storage hardware that can capture that really fast, because it's not as though when you're sending a text message comes in, it needs that high performance storage for storing 140 character text. It's for that, again, being able to capture as much data as fast as possible so that the CPU can then do what it needs to do about it, but first get that data on the device. So that's part of what one of the consistent talking points of Apple is that yes, you are getting less choice when you go with Apple, but because we do control everything, we can give you a better experience, and often at the same amount of money as you would get with a Samsung phone or a high-end Pixel phone.
Speaking of ProRes, this is not something you're going to get right now, but Alex, explain to me what ProRes is and why this is a big deal.
What we don't know right now is what flavor of ProRes that they're
so
I don't think they
ProRes is
anywhere.
A format, right?
Yeah, so ProRes basically is a intra-frame format that basically allows you to have, it's what I use to do all my work. So everything gets converted. In fact, if you send me something that I'm going to run into an edit, I immediately convert it to ProRes.
That's as opposed to ProRes. MP5 or
MP4 or H264 or HEVC or whatever. That's all just going to get pushed into ProRes because it's not dealing with long GOPs, so long group of frames. So it edits better. Also
does that
lots
mean more
of detail.
keyframes? What is that?
Yeah, there's essentially. Yeah, okay. I mean, and then the other thing is take your phone out right now, and with the HI or HEVC, record the trees, like a wide shot of the trees in 4K, and then zoom in on it and see how they look like little fractals.
Yeah.
Like, because the HEVC just simply cannot describe the image in the way you want it to. ProRes, theoretically, depending on which version of ProRes they're using, is going to look a lot better. Now,
is that because of shorter GOPs, or it's because of better compression?
It is a lot less compression, and a lot less, and so the issue is
that is one question mark is how much compression.
It's going to be
right? Is it 444?
So there's right. So there's a whole bunch of different flavors. You have proxy, which we don't really use, but I'm afraid that might end up being what's on the phone.
That's the super smart small flavor you use to create edit decision lists that you can ship over the internet, presuming somebody has the real high quality imagery.
Right. Now proxy will be it'll be a big jump from what we would have. Now, the next one up is...
Even then, proxy's better than
probably
HEVC?
Better than HEVC.
Okay.
I think so. I don't know for sure. I'd have to look at the two of them. It's a lot bigger. Then there's LT, and they may have created a new ProRes as well, so we don't even know that. But there's LT, there's 422, 422 HQ, and then there's 444 and then 444 XQ, and 444s take alpha channels, and they're not doing that. But the big thing is that
because the file size is so big.
Well, that's going to be the thing. So the thing is that if you start shooting with this, you can fill up a terabyte really fast.
Yeah.
I can. So I think that especially when they're talking about doing it up to 4K 30. Now there's a lot of people, including me, that we're quite willing to dump stuff off our camera more often so that we could shoot. I mean, the idea of being able to shoot ProRes from your phone is really exciting.
Yeah, but if you could only shoot 10 minutes at a time before you had to dump it, that might.
It won't be 10 minutes. I mean, I can shoot. It'll be. You shoot a couple hours, and it's gonna. I mean, ProRes LT is about. I don't remember the exact. I don't remember the exact thing, but I can tell you that we calculate. I can shoot 4 hours of LT. 1080p, or 1 hour of 4K in 250 megs. So it's not, so you can shoot a lot of it there, but you will have to take it off. Like ProRes is going to be something that you're not going to leave on your phone like every other photo that you have.
Yeah. That is an interesting consideration. Every time that I'm always surprised that whenever a phone or another device claims that, hey, look, we now do 4K at 60 frames per second, it's then the first actual production hardware goes out and people says, yeah, I got 3.5 minutes in before the camera said, "Hey, I'm overheating. I'm shutting down right now."
Or just that it's the fact that it has 4,000 pixels across or whatever doesn't mean what is the quality of those pixels. And so the ProRes theoretically has the potential to give a lot more quality per pixel, which is really exciting.
These are the specs for the lenses, and it looks like the lens you're going to want to use most of the time is the wide, because that's the one with 100% focus pixels, the widest aperture, 1.5, OIS, sensor shift OIS. But it's nice. You've got this telephoto, which is effective 77 millimeter focal length. That's going to be a nice thing to have. Do any of the modes combine data from all the lenses? Is there anything doing that?
I think the pipeline does take into consideration pretty much everything. That's why even if you don't think that the super wide lens is going to, I've never taken super wide pictures, it's still going to be able to, in a low light situation, take data from the super wide lens to fill in some of the blanks it's having problems with.
They didn't mention LiDAR, but I presume that's still. Yeah. Is it on this or not?
Yeah, they had it on the slide.
It was on the
slide.
Okay.
It is funny that they went that it went from being the coolest thing ever to it's just on the phone. You don't think about it anymore.
They did show though a lot of uses of LiDAR in AR. They didn't show the IKEA app
for once.
It was really some interesting
another app.
interesting uses of AR where I don't even know if they even said AR, but you could. Right?
Yeah, but they did a lot of, again, they refer to specific apps like a tennis training app that's using LiDAR and basically the entire camera subsystem.
That was interesting,
to do ball tracking, to do like online coaching, and not just simply, here's a video, I can stream it to a coach elsewhere, but no, it can actually see how you're moving. It understands spatial relationships between what's happening on the court, and no one's going to simply buy an iPhone, except for maybe me, based on, hey, look, it has LiDAR, but if they say, hey, look, here is an app that will do this amazing. You love tennis. Here's something amazing it can do for you. Just buy this app and it'll do it for you. That's what gets people who maybe still have a 2 or 3 year old phone that's working great for them to say, ooh, but my phone doesn't have LiDAR. Maybe I should get this. Or someone, I was musing. I have to say, I was musing about this after in the break between the end of the keynote and the start of the show. That man, I sort of had $1,000 earmarked for the Pixel 6 phone if I think it's really, really good, and I have to consider if I'm just generically saying, well, I've got $1,000 to spend on a phone upgrade for my Pixel 4a, which is a $350 phone that does great. I mean, I love it, but I have to start thinking, gee, will I get more bang for the buck, oddly enough, by going with an iPhone Pro instead of with an Android phone? And LiDAR is one of the distinguishing things that I can see so many things I would like to be able to do that I can do with a camera phone that has LiDAR over one that does not.